more division practice, and interpreting the remainder. In this lesson, we're going to review what we have been practicing lately. That is problems where we are dealing with a two-digit divisor, using what we know about rounding to think about the two-digit divisor as a more friendly number when doing that find step of finding how many times the divisor or a number close to the divisor goes into the dividend. And then after we go through this business of solving, as we'll see in the word problems in the bottom section, sometimes we have to make a decision about what to do with the remainder based on the situation that we've been presented. Sometimes we'll need to round up. Sometimes we'll need to ignore the remainder. Sometimes we'll need to convert the remainder into a decimal or a fraction, and so on. Let's get started. We're going to do problems 2, 5, and then we'll move down to the word problems below. Number 2, 3,192 divided by 38. Looking at 38, what's that friendly number that we can think about 38 as? If we round this to the nearest tens place, we can think about 38 as 40. If you know your 4 times facts, you know your 40 times facts. How many times does 40 go into 3? No. 31? No. 319? Yes. Well, 40 goes into 319, 7 or 8, right? 40 times 7 is 280. 40 times 8 is 320. I think I'm going to test out the times 8 using a side calculation. So 38 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 6 gets carried. 8 times 3 is 24, plus the 6 is 30, and that checks out. So I'm going to line up my 8 right over that 9, copy down 304, because as we showed in our side calculation, 38 multiplied by 8 is 304. And then I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5. 1 minus 0 is 1. The 3's will cancel. Let's bring down the 2. The new number that's formed is 152. Now, go back to the find step. We're going to find about how many times does 40 go into 152. Well, 40 times 4 is 160, which is very close. I'm going to test out multiplying by 4. 38 times 4 will be my side calculation. I'll just use the space over here. 4 times 8 is 32. The 2 comes down, 3 gets carried. 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 3 is 15. Ding, ding, ding. What do you know? We got it right on the dot there. And there is nothing left to bring down. No remainder left over. We have a clean quotient of 84. Problem 5, 3,692 divided by 49. 49 can be thought of as a more friendly 50. About how many times does 50 go into 369? Well, 50 times 7 is 350. 50 times 8 is 400. 400 feels like I might be overshooting it. I'm going to test out multiplying by 7 here. 49 times 7. Let's see how close we get. 7 times 9 is 63. 3 comes down, 6 gets carried. 7 times 4 is 28, plus the 6 is 34. And that seems to check out nicely. I'll line up the 7, copy down 343, and we will set it up for subtraction. 9 minus 3 is 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. Let's bring down the next digit, and the new number that's formed is 262. Now, about how many times does 50 go into 262? I'm thinking 50 times 5 is 250. That feels pretty close. Let's test out multiplying by 5. Remember, when we do the side calculations, we've always got to use the actual two-digit divisor, not the rounded number that we use to get in the ballpark. 49 multiplied by 5. 5 times 9 is 45. The 5 will come down. The 4 gets carried. 5 times 4 is 20 plus the 4 is 24. And 245, that seems to check out nicely. I'm going to line my 5 up here, copy down 245. Let's subtract. 2 minus 5, we'll need to borrow. 12 minus 5 now is 7. 5 minus 4 is 1. The 2's will cancel each other out. There is nothing left to bring down. The 17 becomes my remainder. Moving on now to the word problems at the bottom. Number 7, at a pen factory, there were 9,000 pens produced. Each package requires 24 pens. How many packages were filled? Okay, let's set this up as long division. What are we dividing? The number of pens, 9,000, divided by the number in each package, which is 24. We're trying to figure out how many packages got filled. 24 can be thought of as 20. About how many times does 20 go into 90? Well, 20 times 4 is 80. I'm going to test out multiplying by 4. 24 times 4 is my first side calculation here. 4 times 4 is 16. 6 comes down, 1 gets carried. 4 times 2 is 8, plus the 1 is 9. Multiplying by 4, I overshot it a little bit. So I know I'm going to be putting a 3 here. 24 times 3 is my next side calculation. 3 times 4 is 12. The 2 comes down, 1 gets carried. 3 times 2 is 6, plus the 1 is 7. So I've done my find, I've done my multiply step. Next we'll subtract. 90 minus 72. The 0 has to borrow. 10 minus 2 is 8. 8 minus 7 is 1. After subtract, we bring down. The new number that's formed is 180. I'm thinking 20. I'm trying to find about how many times does 20 go into 180. Well, 20 times 9 is 180, but I think that's going to overshoot it. So I'm going to test out 8. 24 times 8 is going to be my next side calculation here. 8 times 4 is 32. 2 comes down, 3 gets carried. 8 times 2 is 16 plus the 3. Even multiplying by 8 was a little too much. So I'm feeling very confident that I'm going to be placing a 7 here. But I need to confirm what is 24 multiplied by 7. 7 times 4 is 28. 8 comes down, 2 gets carried. 7 times 2 is 14, plus the 2 is 16. So we get 168. Next we'll subtract. 0 has to borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. 7 minus 6 is 1. Let's bring down the 0. About how many times does 20 go into 120? Well, 20 times 6 is going to be 120, but multiplying by 6 is going to overshoot it. I'm going to test out 5. Actually, I got a good feeling about 5. 24 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. The 0 comes down, 2 gets carried. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 2. Ding, ding, ding. Right on the dot. Told you I had a good feeling about it. No remainder, nothing left to bring down. We have our answer. 375 packages got filled. Okay. I'm going to kind of put a line here, put a place for our work for the next problem. Number 8. A group of 8 waiters decided to put all their tips together and then split the money. They earned a total of $582. If they divide the money equally, how much will each waiter receive? Okay, so it's a money problem, and I'm already imagining that if it, depending on how our division works out, we may be dealing with a decimal answer. First, how many times does 8 go into 5? No. How many times does 8 go into 58? 7. 8 times 7 is 56. Let's subtract that out. Do our bring down. The new number that's formed is 22. Back to find. Find how many times 8 goes into 22. 2 times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract. 2 needs to borrow. 6. So at this moment, I'm going to show you a couple ways that we could handle this. It's a money problem. So these 8 waiters are dividing up this $582 and trying to share it equally. Each of them is going to get $72, but then you've got this extra $6. How do we split $6 8 ways? Well, you could show 72 remainder 6 as 72 and 6/8, or 72 and 3/4. What's 3/4 of a dollar? If you said 75 cents, you'd be correct. That's one way. How did I get this? Well, I can always express the remainder in a division problem as the number itself on top as the numerator and the divisor as my denominator. So 72 remainder 6 in this case is 72 and 6/8, which can be reduced to 72 and 3/4, which can be shown as a decimal as $72.75, or if we were to use math talk, 72 and 75/100. There you go. Here's another way you could do this problem. At this point, I can extend the problem. Sometimes you have to do this with decimals and with money problems. Here's what I mean by that. I'm going to imagine a decimal point here. I'm going to add a 0 because adding a 0 there does not change anything about the value of the dividend. I'm going to bring down that 0. Now I'm going to find how many times does 8 go into 60? 7. 8 times 7, 56. 10 minus 6 is 4. Add another 0. Bring it down. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5. 8 times 5, 40. Now, clean answer. Nothing left over, nothing to bring down. And it checks out with what we had previously determined, $72.75. Moving on to number 9. Cafeteria has an area of 1,820 square feet. If the length of the floor is 52 feet, what is the width? Of course, we are assuming this is a rectangular design that we're dealing with, and the area of a rectangle is length times width. So if the area is length times width, well, the width can be shown as the area divided by the length. I know the area and I know the length. Let's set it up as division and go. $52 can be thought of as, 52 can be thought of as 50. How many times does 50 go into 182? About 3 times. I'm feeling very confident in that. If I do my side calculation, I'm going to do this as mental math. 52 times 3 is going to get me 156. Let's subtract. 2 needs to borrow. 12 minus 6 is 6. 7 minus 5 is 2. Let's bring down to 0. How many times does 50 go into 260? About 5 times. And when I actually do my side calculation, 52 times 5, guess what? It checks out perfectly. 52 times 5 is 260. I get a clean answer of 35 feet. Finally, number 10, Wilson is saving up for a computer. He has $45 so far. He needs to save a total of $918. The amount of money he needs is how many times the amount he has already saved. Well, we're going to be doing some division. We're going to divide 918 by 45. I'm going to try to find how many times 45 goes into 918. 45 times 2 is 90. So 45 goes into 91 2 times. Subtract that out. Let's bring down. 45 goes into 18 0 times. Now, I'm going to extend the problem. Remember how we extended the problem? We put a decimal point here. I'm going to add a 0 here. I'm going to bring it down. How many times does 45 go into 180? Yeah, it's going to be 3 or 4, isn't it? I'm looking at this and I've got a good feeling about 4. Let's test it out. 45 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 0 comes down, 2 gets carried. 4 times 4 is 16 plus a 2 is 18. Our answer, 20 and 4/10.